Hey, afternoon or morning, depends from what kind of time zone actually you're coming from. I'm absolutely excited about what's happening right now. It's been a long time actually. I'm doing a live streaming with an amazing band. There is not that much of a sort of introduction I can do, which the best one will be that basically I go Michael and Justin from that crossing basically waiting. Before we're gonna start, just wanna put like a quick intro and we're just going for it. So that would be the introduction. So obviously we're inaugurating a new serial live streaming here on GOTR TV, which is Grind on the Road TV. With me in studio today will be Death Cross with Justin Pearson and Michael Crain, so guitar and bass coming in. Basically, they're releasing a new album really soon, and I'm really excited to have them in studio, so I'm just going to welcome them both, and we just go for it. Hey guys, how we doing?
Good. Hi.
Fantastic. Hi, how are you guys? It's great to have you here in the studio. Thank you very much for your time. It's absolutely appreciate it. Been waiting for this for ages. It's been a long time. How's it going over there?
It's decent. Yeah, it's going.
Just waking up.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Just waking up. No, I'm really sorry though, but I mean, like it's 5:30 here in UK, but yeah, it's basically 9:30 in California, so it's really early for the guys. They are written now, which is just amazing. And thank you very much for your time. I really absolutely appreciate it. Thanks a lot for that.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no worries. It's always a pleasure, Justin. Always a pleasure. Well, just a quick reminder. I mean, like there is not that much of introduction, but Justin and Michael, they're basically the really OG of the punk scene in California, but actually in the United States in general. Let's be really honest. We mentioned Dead Cross, but actually, if you want to mention the completely rosters of bands that those chaps have been doing and all the collabs, I can go down on Retox, Cunts, The Locust, Some Girls, Planet B, Festival of Dead Days, Satanic Planet, Kill the Capulets, and I don't believe actually I missed any of those. Obviously, there are more than that.
There are more, but
there's probably more.
Yeah.
There's absolutely more, but yeah, I mean, like we are obviously here today for Dead Cross. New album has been announced under Ipecac Records. Really exciting. How you guys are feeling about that?
About the release?
Yeah.
Oh, I think I can speak for Justin also on this one. Saying we're happy is an understatement because we didn't think this record was going to ever come out.
Why so?
Well, when we started writing for this record was in 2018. After a tour, we had been compiling material, and then I got sick in 2019, so I had to go through cancer. And then after I came out of that was when we started tracking, and then the pandemic hit. And throughout the pandemic, as Mike Patton has talked about, his mental health started to decline. So it was like years before this record ever came to fruition, or, you know. So yeah, it was, for a while there, I wasn't sure. I thought it was just gonna sit on some hard drives, you know.
Michael, if we're looking at 1 second at the past, though, you say this guy said actually was some sort of really difficult to launch and produce. How do you guys? I mean, obviously it's been like cancer, and hopefully, I mean, like I know that actually you look absolutely fine, as well as the pandemic, which has been a massively like hit for any sort of producer, for the musicians as well. How do you guys cope on the recording and the producing? It was some sort of virtually things actually was happening, or you were like physically in the studio as well? How did you do that?
Yeah, there was no virtual. We did me and Justin and Dave did all the and Ross. Sorry, we can't forget Ross. He's the 5th member of the band, basically. We did all the tracking in person. That was before the pandemic. the pandemic hit, and usually Patton will do his vocals on his own. So that was basically up to him. Mixing, we did, I guess you could say we did virtually, right, Justin? We did that through email and messages, the mixing process. But Patton typically does his own vocals in his own studio.
So basically, like 28th of October is coming out finally. We've been waiting for that for ages. Let's be honest. I mean, like, it's actually concrete coming out. Looking at the structure of the song themselves, though, I believe it actually is a perfect balance in between like the past experiences that each component is having and the input is actually being coming through. It looks like almost a puzzle that the diverse identities, they're matching with each other, and it comes out a really solid release, as well as looking at some sort of like individuality into that. Do you believe this one is for you guys is a characteristic of each kind of the cross album? Because I can see like Dave Lombardo being on drums the way he was, as well as just singing bass, and you, Michael, on guitar, and Mike Patton being the histrionic part of as per vocalism. Do you believe though it was wanted like that? It was just some sort of natural events that will be producing the recorded that way?
Go ahead, Justin.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think, I think for most of us, at least for Mike and I really do feel like, you know, whatever project we're working on, we kind of have this really vague idea of what it should be, and it never really lands on that because of the players. So like, you can't really go into it expecting something to sound exactly like this idea because someone else is going to interpret it differently. So it depends on the players. And I think that, you know, from the first Dead Cross record to the EP to this second album, we've become a little bit more aware of what we should be doing or what we could be doing. But with that being said, I don't think we had this general idea of like, let's do this thing and it'll sound like this. I think we kind of just went into it and it happened organically and honestly. And I think that's important because it's, I don't know, it's just, it makes the art more sincere, I suppose. You know, we did what felt comfortable for all of us and what made sense for all of us, you know, the four of us in one, like in tandem with each other, I suppose. So, I don't know if I answered your question appropriately, but yeah, I mean, the album makes sense. It seems right. It seems like an evolution too from the first record. Yeah, I guess. I also think it's important too to acknowledge like non-musical influences, like things in our lives or in the world that we live in also make us, you know, create and like sort of expel things. So those are also important aspects to address as well. You know, the music is sort of like an explanation of what's happening in our brains and in our hearts or whatever. So yeah, I mean, I think it should change from album to album.
Do you think that this one is an album of genre? So, I mean, it's having a particular kind of denomination, or is it more a mix in between of what was being done in the past and actually is congregating into a new genre?
You mean as far as our sound, stylistically?
Yeah, stylistically speaking.
Yeah, I think like Justin said, it's more of an organic process than a preconceived process. So the first record we wrote almost all on spec. We had to come up with songs, and at that time we had Gabe Serbian on vocals, and we kind of had this idea of really like grindy, classic grind thrash is what we were going for. So the songs had a certain direction. They didn't end up landing that way. They sound totally different. But so with this record, again, I don't think we had any intentions other than just, we had some material that we started way before Cancer. I had a lot of riffs and parts in my phone, really, that I've been saving for the last couple of years. But when we all get together in the room with Ross, everything changes, honestly. Like barely anything ever stays the way we wanted it to, which is good. Like, you evolve, people evolve, emotions evolve. Like, how I feel today isn't how I felt yesterday or how I'm going to feel tomorrow. And so I'm not going to play something the same. So yeah, it's typically more organic, and we never really think like, oh, I mean, sometimes I suppose if we're tracking and something sounds a little too pop or a little too punk or to whatever the case may be, we'll be vigilant of stuff like that. Oh, let's throw in a minor third there, or that's way too major sounding. Little stuff like that, but typically nothing too planned.
There's something that we experienced with Ross too, where when we'd be tracking, usually we would know the material generally, but it would always change. But Ross would come in and take our notes, or like kind of force us to just jump into it head first without any sort of guardrails. He would just say, like, just do it and just fuck it up, and that's beautiful, and there's beauty in mistakes. And I think that's a really interesting and honest way to record. So there's that, but also too, I think like we were able to kind of open up our spectrum and embrace certain things. Like I think something that really was attractive on this new album was Mike's use of effects and like sort of like this weird gothy delay, like guitar delay, and it kind of adds a I don't know, it like makes some of the songs or some of the riffs like sadder or more emotional. And I think that's cool, because before on the first album it was like a little bit more punk rock, so it was cool to kind of have like a little bit more depth to it and a little bit more I don't know, like pulling at your heartstrings, I suppose, or something, and also coupled up with some of Patton's lyrics where he nailed it, just with some really, really deep and like heartfelt lyrics. Like some of these verses and some of the choruses on a couple of the tracks are just spot on. And they do, I think it's an influence on each other, like as far as like each member and what we're playing. Like we all feed off of each other. And if there's a vibe, then we kind of end up rolling with that vibe if we feel comfortable with it. And I think again, like with all the things that we brought up, I think that makes sense why the album has a different tone than the first one. It doesn't seem as punky or punk rock. It seems more just, I don't want to say like menacing. It just seems more darker. And to me, it sounds like, I don't know, like Christian Death or The Cure or something, but brutal, and I think that's cool. And it makes sense. Again, it makes sense, given all things considered.
You guys have been together, like going around for a while. What do you think actually is the best quality then each of you is bringing into a project? Some sort of things actually you think like is adding value to the record itself?
Like our personal, I don't know, personal experiences, just our personalities, our baggage. I mean, that's what makes great art. That's what, I'm not calling us great artists. That's what makes my favorite artists my favorites, is whoever they are and what they've been through. Like, I don't want my artists or my bands to be fucking squeaky clean and sound perfect. I don't want to hear that shit, then I would just listen to Top 40 if that was the case. I want to hear problems. Let me hear your struggles. Let me hear what went wrong. Let me hear it in your voice. Let me read it in that lyric. Let me hear it in your beat or in your riff. So I think it's just us. I don't know.
Yeah, art is supposed to be a reflection of the world you live in, so I think that would make sense. For me though, I think a really important point is that like it's pretty refreshing to rehearse and write in this band, and there's very little ego, and that's a problem that I think a lot of bands do end up dealing with, where you have this power struggle with a member or certain members. And here everyone's like very constructively critical and open to, you know, criticism, or even welcoming themselves with self-criticism. And I think that's a good point, because a lot of artists, you know, won't admit like, oh, that my riff sucks, you know, or like they can't see that. And it's nice to like be able to just kind of step back and look at it as like a whole unit. You know, I think it's cool for some people when the band is that one person and there's the band, but for us, I feel like the band is us, like one unit. And I don't know, I'm grateful for that. And I think it helps us work and function. Yeah, I mean, going into the band, someone from the outside would have expected, oh, you're playing with, you know, these sort of like, for Mike and I, like you're playing with these other like sort of legends, and people have asked, like, is it hard? Or you know, like with Dave and Mike Patton, is it hard, or is there like, you know, ego? And it's crazy because there's none of those things. Like, it's fun and nice and cathartic and not nice, but you know what I'm saying? Like like enjoyable. Like I have a desire to go into a rehearsal space in a recording room and onto a stage with these people, because there is you know, everyone's humble, and that's really nice to be around. It's really, I appreciate that.
So looks like it's some sort of, you guys rehearse a lot, or are you just sending tracks to each other, or how does it work?
It depends on what we have coming. If it's a tour or something, yeah, then we rehearse together for sure.
Okay.
Writing, we've done it every different way. I mean, like I said, the first record, we did it together. Boom. Now we had to do it. And then the second record, we had more time to accumulate parts and accumulate material. So.
Cool. Right. If we were looking at, for instance, like the touring part as well, what do you having like confirmed at the moment? It's just a festival actually is in Luxembourg, but I believe it's happening like some sort of the 13th of April. Sorry, I'm just going through my note. 24th of April, 2023. It's the only things actually I was checking on the website regarding touring. Is there any sort of reason why actually there is now a complete like touring list for the new release or so?
What did you see? What? I'm sorry.
There was I just went on the website though. I mean, maybe I was just completely sort of blind. And what I saw from that cross was basically like 24th of April in Luxembourg. And that's actually the only thing I saw. Is that correct? Or maybe I just mislead it from...
I don't know if we're playing that show.
I don't know. I haven't heard of anything.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm just legit went on the website looking for touring and what we were doing there, and actually it was a festival in Luxembourg. And actually are there the 24th of April 2023. And
I hope.
Whoops.
Yeah.
I mean, some sort of the news, the guys, you have to show up there apparently. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, like that's what I was checking.
We don't, Justin and I haven't heard of any, there's no dates that we've been booking to answer your question. I think the goal or the focus is to let Patton kind of collect himself and be in a position to where he's able to tour again where he wants to. Right now, his mental health and his physical health is like the focus. So that comes first, you know, until he's ready.
Cool.
I haven't heard any shows.
Hopefully soon in this case. Hopefully
Yeah,
soon. I was
definitely.
Yeah. Checking out recently the cover of the new Noise. Actually, we can put it on screen as well. If you like, I believe it was a Beckett Giglio's photos, right? If I'm correct. Yeah, which is great. No, that would be the next one. Thank you. Yeah. New Noise, that crossing there. Amazing photos, amazing shows. But first of all, when it's been taking this photo? Because it's just amazing. Where was it?
That is behind my studio in Los Angeles.
What was that? You got a train station passing by next to the studio.
Yeah, it's like an industrial kind of area. It's where if you're going southeast of downtown Los Angeles, it gets really industrial, and that's why there's trains everywhere. Yeah.
if you check in like the apart from the that cross announcement on the new noise, and it was like the amazing photo, there are sort of like a really beefy music that happened in this time. It's like Brutus, they announced the new album, Russian Circle, they just came out, Chat Pile, they came with God's Country. You guys had the opportunity actually to listen to the Chat Pile release by any chance?
Say that again?
Chat Pile, the new album of Chat Pile. Have you heard about them?
No.
This is an amazing band. I mean, from Oklahoma, by the way. You guys check it out. But I'm just saying, the point was like, seems like the last part of 2022 is all about like extremely violent music, and people actually have been locked during the lockdown. Have been evaluating and just putting through all the material, and they're coming out absolutely like devastating in the scene, like with the really, really strong music. Is that happening with you guys as well?
I mean, it would be one thing if we wrote the record during the pandemic, but the music part was all written and recorded right before the pandemic happened. So I don't know if that was a direct effect of it. I don't know. That's an interesting point. I do see like, I see what you're saying, like aggressive or you said violent music as like a quality post pandemic or something. But I also see like people trying to find, you know, peace and positivity in it. And not that like having aggressive music is not peaceful or positive, but I see like this really strange, like sort of new direction of art. And it makes it a little bit harder to kind of pinpoint and say what it is. I'm the stuff you referenced, I'm not familiar with, but you know, you typically, I guess to like the typical person that thinks of like punk or hardcore metal, they think, or thrash, they think of like a nihilistic aspect to it, you know, like sort of like quintessential Sid Vicious wearing a swastika t-shirt or something. But now I feel like that there's no space for that anymore. And now I think that, you know, if there is sort of aggressive music or like, you know, air quote violent music, I think it is coming from like a positive spin or a place of love or struggle for change. I think it's like, it's not just like a nihilistic endeavor. It's something that there's a message attached to it. I think with a lot of the art that at least that I'm aware of, or that things that I'm familiar with, it seems like that is the direction. I don't know. Yeah, it's just in 10 years I could probably pinpoint what happened, but right now we're like in the middle of it, you know? So it's kind of hard to say like, oh, the pandemic did this and we all as artists created this kind of stuff. Like I think it needs more time so we can look back and reflect and go, oh yeah, this was the effect of the world that we were trying to navigate through, if that makes sense.
It's still some sort of assimilation process of whatever is happening in the last 2-3 years, isn't it? It's like, yeah, there is violent music. I completely agree with you, as well as there've been like some sort of release which they've been like completely calm and relaxed, and they went in another space which was more lyrically discussing about what was happening in interior life of the artist. But it's interesting to see as well the level of attention span which has been reducing massively during the lockdown for the listeners in particular. How do you guys reflect into it? Do you realize that people, they're listening like the attention span shrinks like massively, and people, they don't listen to albums anymore? And how do you reflect as an artist as well? How do you cope with that in a way?
I think that I mean, Mike and I both recorded projects with each other and separately during the pandemic, and I do think that what you're saying about people's attention spans, you know, shrinking and stuff, I think that's a product of things even before the pandemic. I feel like that, you know, there's the concept of like, as far as music is concerned, like not recording an album, just releasing singles, you know, because a lot of it shifted to digital only releases, and not really focusing on like an actual album. So that might be part of like a I guess like a product of people's attention spans shrinking. I mean, I think it's probably the nature of what the internet as a whole sort of instills in us as humans. You know, we want to see like the instant gratification. We want to scroll and see the next thing. So I think that might be part of it. But I mean, for me personally, I don't know if that, I try to fight it, at least subconsciously when I can. You know, I don't know. I think there is an important aspect of having a full album or being a little bit more patient and making sure you don't just fart something out there, which seems to happen more often than not these days.
Do you reckon that sometimes the artists as well, they are guilty on just releasing like singles or small EPs, like one after each other, instead of just going for the big releases, and just matching with the market is actually happening around then and contributing to that? Or is it sort of part of the game that, you know, you have to do it because it's the way it is?
I mean, it seems like that's how things are changing. I mean, I think there's something like 200,000 new songs released per day on Spotify, which just seems like a terrible situation to be in. You know, everyone's fighting to get noticed. And so I think if you wait and like put in the duration of writing a, you know, 10 to 15 song album, there's the chance of you like being like forgotten or whatever people think, you know, like, oh, your social media, you have to post something or be active. And I think that might be a problem because, you know, also the accessibility of recording and releasing music has become easier and easier. And so you have this, you know, at this point in life, I think, you know, are in our existence on Earth, like, you know, we have the ability to record and put out art and make art very easily. Everyone can do it. And so I think there's probably, you know, today there's probably like the most, you know, creative and innovative artists existing on this planet. But with that being said, there's also like an insane amount of it, which leads to be, you know, like leads for like mediocrity or insincerity, you know, or unsincerity. Like it just seems like it goes both ways. There's a positive and negative to the situation that I think we're finding ourselves in. I don't know. I'm grateful that we're in a band that we can release a record and people care about it. And you know, with a big gap between the last record, because I do feel like people are rushing to put stuff out, or just cramming stuff out there. And maybe it is what they want, but for the most part, it sometimes seems like it might not be fully developed. And that's fine for them, but for me, I don't know if I want to be part of that.
Michael, what's your thought about that?
Yeah, it's insane oversaturation. I mean, anybody can record anything on their phone and then put it out. It doesn't mean it's going to be good. It doesn't mean anybody's going to want to hear it. I don't know. It's weird. And I know it's all genre specific too. Like in hip hop or pop, you know, they don't do records. They don't, you know, it's singles featuring. Like that's their whole world. So I don't know. That's a tough one. Records are definitely cooler. I'd rather see a full album. I'd rather listen to a full album. I want to hear the ideas from beginning to end. I'd like to hear the arc. I don't know.
I think that's a good point, though. I mean, with our album, like, because even what we were talking about this the other day with like the singles that Ipecac suggested, and I think it makes sense, but like, because if there's a lot of there's like a lot of mid-tempo and slower stuff on this album, which I think is my favorite. But you know, you get like one chance to be like, here's the single, like buy the record. It has to be the thing that most people can grab onto. And I feel like when you put the new album on from start to finish, it is more of like an entire piece of work. It's not like here's all the tracks. It has like it tells a story from the start and to the end. And I think that's cool. I don't know if a lot of artists write like that. And for me, when we listened to the test pressings or when we were mastering the record from start to finish, it had like a story to tell. And I think that's something that a lot of artists might overlook or maybe aren't focused on as much anymore.
I think though sometimes the artists, and I've been listening to a few interviews of the later release, and there are sort of those that actually they will go out. That was the perfect song for a single. That was our single. This one is being produced to be a single, and I believe though sometimes it's just losing completely the identity, or it can be the album itself, and you're, you know, focusing on just one song because you have to go out and they have to be like your flagship for whatever is going to happen next. And it looks completely like the personality as well of releasing something which is complete. I really appreciate, for instance, like everyone is pretty excited about the latest Mars Water release. I believe though it was one of the most simple album it was coming out, and actually it was like complete in a way, completely different to what they did before, but in a certain way, it was like an album I was listening from the beginning until the end, and I didn't have this kind of feeling of the single itself or a song have to go out just to be like successful as such. Anyway, sorry, were just my thoughts. I just want to contribute in that.
But wait, that's a good point though, because I think even with any artist, when there's someone who's critical of a record or a single of art, you're in a good position even for negativity. Like if people are talking about it, then you're successful. It's when people are indifferent, you know, when you put something out and no one gives a shit either way, that's kind of when I think you are not succeeding, you know. I mean, and I also like when there's an artist that'll put a record out that changes things and people are in an uproar, you know. It makes it feel like they're doing something that's from their heart, something that's sincere. They're not just doing the same thing again, which, you know, in the mainstream, I think is what people really do want. They want to hear another version of the thing that they already like. Where I welcome artists to challenge people, you know, and man, if there's backlash, then like, good, you're doing a good job. I think. But sorry,
I agree with Justin. Dave Chappelle is a perfect example.
Sorry, say that again?
Dave Chappelle is a perfect example of what Justin's saying.
Dave Chappelle?
Yeah.
Sort of, yeah. I mean, it's changing completely, like, what is he doing? Why Dave Chappelle is a perfect example?
Because he's saying what he wants to say in an artistic sense. He's trying. His art is comedy. You know, it's like our art is music, and I think what he's saying, like, let it be free. You know what I mean? It's not fucking real. Number one, it's art, and the second someone starts shutting down art and censoring art, I get really scared. I get really nervous, and I can see why Dave Chappelle is like, you guys, these are jokes. So I hope that makes some sense.
Mike, how do you think like, or it's not possible, but a modern day Gigi Allen would be very interesting in the world that we're in now.
Yeah, we need him.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think it could exist.
No, I don't think so either.
But I do think that, like,
yeah,
as much as I think, you know, as much as I can criticize someone like Gigi Allen, I think he as an artist was very relevant, you know, for the lineage of punk and just absurdity, even like avant-garde art, you know, like he needed to happen for the next thing to happen. Not that I want to see a repeat of that, but I wonder if there'll be something of that stature in the future.
I think there will be 100%. It's coming. It's all cyclical, I believe. You know, nothing's linear. Life isn't linear, and you're right by bringing up Gigi Allen. Like, Gigi Allen, no matter what you thought of him or how awful he was, or the music, if it wasn't your cup of tea or whatever, you're right. Gigi Allen needed to happen. We need a Gigi Allen. So you can hate him. That's what you want to do. But that needs to be there. There needs to be this other side of art and of expression, you know? Man.
Like, you couldn't be indifferent about Gigi. You had to have an opinion. Like, you had to be like, that guy's fucked, or that guy's gross, or whatever.
Yeah, that guy's a piece of shit, or that guy's incredible. Yeah.
I don't want to give Kanye too much credit, but, you know, it's kind of like that. You're just like, that guy fucking sucks, man.
Yeah.
So,
you're right, but you're
kind of right.
Yeah, that guy fucking sucks, man. He's an asshole.
I wouldn't compare him to Gigi Allen though, but I mean,
no,
like,
I wouldn't do that to Gigi. That's offensive. I don't want to offend Gigi, RIP, you know. But, you know, just being like a piece of shit, different kinds of shit, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, artistically speaking, as far actually you have to say you like it, you don't like the Gigi Allen stuff. I personally don't like his music. I mean, like, honestly, but this one is a personal choice. Obviously, I'm completely out from the generation as well. But I understand though what actually Michael yourself as well say. Like, we need someone like that actually to have it there, to be a manifesto somehow, to hate it or love it. And Michael would say like some music sometimes, as well as events, they are always changing and always coming back on a certain stage. But I don't think though we will have some sort of character like Gigi Allen is just coming back and being some sort of it was a kind of flagship back then. It was a phase of a generation, isn't it? A phase in the US in particular.
Yeah, but it had to happen though, and I again, like I think when Gigi Allen was around, I had went to a show he played, and I couldn't get in. It was 21 and up, but I watched from the door, and in my 13-year-old brain, it lasted longer than it did. But I actually talked about this a couple months ago with someone who was there inside, and they said it lasted like 4 minutes or something, and it was like, I didn't know any better. I didn't know like what good or bad music was necessarily. I went because I knew it was a spectacle. I knew he said fucked up shit. I knew fucked up things happened, and I needed to see that. And I remember like, again, I'm looking through this door. Every time it opened, I could only see like a sliver of what was happening. It didn't make any sense. And it wasn't until the audience was like kicking his ass out on the street, and then all these fucking like bikers and neo-Nazis and just scummy shitheads were out in the street, was the performance, and that I saw. And I'm glad I saw it, because it really put a lot of stuff into perspective, and it made me kind of see things differently. And it made me kind of understand the concept of music or art. It broadened. It wasn't just like playing notes or being on a stage. It was this performance piece, it was total absurdity. But it was Gigi Allen and that kind of shit that I think led me to Swans or Neubauten, or things that were not as like musical as the industry would have liked, or even early Black Dice, like, not to compare Gigi Allen to Black Dice, but like the first incarnation of Black Dice was something that, those were my friends, and something that was tangible. And I was like, fuck, this is almost non-musical, but it was so wonderful to see and experience. And I think that those things are all cool. It makes sense to me. Maybe I just went off on a tangent. I confused myself. Sorry. Let's move on.
It's all good, Justin. It's all good. Talking about a complete different topic and maybe changing on something a bit more softer. What's up with you at dogs, guys? You love dogs everywhere. I mean, like tattoo of dogs. Justin Pearson posting his own dog eating better than me, eating healthier than me. And I was personally say, like, dude, your dog looks healthy than me. What's up with you guys? What is this love about dogs?
Huh.
I don't know.
They teach us a lot of stuff that we are not capable of teaching each other as humans. They have unconditional love. They teach us how to be patient. They get us out of the moment, like looking at my dog super sad, like, fuck, I got to quit working. I'm going to go out, to the yard or to the park or something. And it helps you kind of reset, I think, a lot of times. But man, they provide stuff that we aren't even capable of. We're not even worthy, I think, of their existence, in our lives. So and they depend on us. So I want to take care of my dog. I want him to like live the coolest life possible. He deserves it. So.
Yeah, by the way, Michael, there's a sick cat tattoo though.
Oh yeah, thank you. Checkers. He's right. He's right here actually. Where is he at? There he is.
Oh, cute.
There's another one.
Wow.
One. I collect them. Yeah, like Justin said, these dogs are all rescues. 2 of them I got off the streets. They fulfill something that I can't get fulfilled anywhere else or from any other source. That makes sense. And it helps keep me stable. Like, they really help my mental health and my ability to like cope with the world. I tend to use dogs as a lens almost, or a buffer between me and the world. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. The point, like, I'm an absolutely cat person. I go a shit three-legged cat actually is just scratching me and killing me. But I love that guy. But I understand though, I'm speaking with the people actually, they are dog persons, and they say like there's an unconditional love. It's basically like some sort of learning and teaching each other every single day. So I do completely understand. But yeah, I mean, like I was obsessed for a while on checking Justin Pearson's dog, like Instagram posts. I mean, I was like, Jesus, look, that guy. It's like, he's eating ice cream, dude. I was like, wow, that was fun. Absolutely fun. Anyway, guys, I know it's been a pleasure, obviously. No, I mean, like we've been actually speaking for about 40 minutes straight. I'm gonna let you go. I'm just gonna say though, thank you very much for your time. Repeating though, the album is coming the 28th of October. Just please go for it. Just boy, it's absolutely fantastic. That cross. We don't know us show as yet. Well, that was basically a fake news regarding Luxembourg one. So we chaps from Luxembourg, just don't go there and attend. So far, we don't know as yet. But yeah, thank you very much for your time. You've been star. Thanks a lot. And I hope to see you soon, hopefully live UK.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Appreciate you taking the time and interest in talking to us.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
No worries, guys. It's always great to have you in the studio. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Cheers.
All right. Bye.